Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a highly requested gun for me to take a look at. This is the Ruger LCP Max. This is another one of those sub-micro compact pistols that I think is designed to compete with guns like the SIG P365. However, it is a little bit different in that Ruger took the P365 magazine design, that magazine that can take a whole bunch of ammunition and compact it into a very small package, and Ruger applied it to their very popular 380. And you do get a lot more capacity out of this tiny magazine. So essentially, it's a P365-ish type of a gun, but chambered in 380. Is that good? Is that bad? How does it translate to its performance? Well, before we get into the range report and we answer those questions, I of course always want to thank my Patreon supporters who help keep the lights on around here. As you guys know, I'm a demonetized channel, and I want to thank Brownworks. They're my primary sponsor for all of these range reports. Mark at Brownworks provides ammunition, so I get to shoot all of these awesome guns and bring you guys all of this great content. If you're unaware, Brownworks is the maker of fine custom grips for a wide variety of firearms. He even makes grips for companies that you guys might not be able to find other custom grips for, such as the Rock Island Armory 2011 series of guns. But of course, he can make a lot of standard grips for 1911s, Beretta 92s, and so forth. He is a master craftsman. He can add any type of custom finish, look, and logo to your grips to customize your gun to your heart's desire. Mark does an amazing job of supporting the Texas Gun Vault, and I ask all of the fans of the Texas Gun Vault to please go over there, check out his website, and see if there's something over there that you like, and to support him because he supports me. You're also going to be getting an amazing set of custom grips, and if there's something on his website that you don't see, feel free to contact him, and I can guarantee you he can custom make them. As I said, he is a master craftsman at creating these grips, and he has great customer service. I promise you will not be disappointed. If you'd like to know more, go to the comment section and the description of this video. I'm going to post a link to his website through an affiliate link, and there is also a discount code if you want to use them to buy some awesome grips from Brownworks. So please support my sponsors because they support me. All right, so on to the Ruger LCP Max. Now you guys know I'm not always a huge fan of Ruger. I'm not a big fan of a company that essentially takes other designs and markets them as their own and might change just a couple of things. I also feel like Ruger personally doesn't always create the highest quality firearms. Now I'm not saying that they're a piece of junk or that they don't work. I might just be a gun snob when I kind of prefer the higher end guns, but there's nothing wrong with Ruger, and I know that Ruger does make a lot of guns that people love, and they have a huge fan base. But as always, when it comes to these range reports, I always want to be upfront and honest with all of you guys about any potential biases that I may have. I know that many gun channels out there will do reviews on guns. They don't tell you that, and they'll either love or hate a gun, and you're not really sure where they stand. But I'm always honest with you. But let's talk about this gun. As I said, this is kind of their take on the P365, but chambered in 380. They took a very popular model, the LCP, and created this awesome magazine for it. I gotta say, they're able to shove a lot of 380 into this tiny magazine. So let's talk about the things that I really like from just handling it here on the table. Number one, this thing is super small. Now I know that right now those super subcompact micro pistols, mainly chambered in 9mm, are kind of the new hotness. Everyone loves those. So I love how this is even smaller than that. So this is like the ultimate deep concealed carry pistol, or maybe a backup pistol. I really do like the sights that they have on this. I'm a growing fan of this U-notch in the back. It seems to have some tritium night sights in the front. I'll see if I can get this in focus. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Sometimes the camera can be a little bit weird. And then obviously we've already talked about the capacity. A gun with more capacity, of course, is going to get more points from me. Now I know some people do live behind enemy lines in those very gun unfriendly states, and people are going to say, well, I don't care about this gun because I can't have it. I totally get it. But there's a lot of states here where you can. I believe these magazines hold 12 rounds. That's pretty formidable for .380. So now let's talk about a few things that I may not like as much. And these are just my initial impressions. First off, it is .380. Now, I do like .380, and I think it is a capable cartridge for self-defense. However, in a gun this small, I think we're going to be dealing with the myth of smaller guns have lighter recoil. And if you know anything about physics, you know that's probably not going to be the case. So even though this is a very small gun, I don't know what the recoil impulse is going to be. It is super light. It might be a little bit on the snappy side. Something else I noticed having it here on the table is the gun's fit is a little bit loose. And that kind of goes back to what I say about Ruger. Not that they make junky guns, and maybe this loose tolerance helps its reliability, but it's a little bit shaky. The slide wobbles on the slide just a little bit. I don't know, someone that's a little bit more discerning or a little bit more picky like myself might kind of feel that and go, it doesn't necessarily feel very solid. The other thing that I noticed that I don't like is all of the controls and the trigger guard are very small. Now yes, this is a super small gun, so you're going to want super small controls. However, with my big old beefy fingers, these are actually kind of hard to actuate. Your slide release is right there on the side where you would normally find it, but it is very small, and I find it is very hard to actuate. Then the trigger guard is very small, and I have, as I said, these kind of big beefy fingers, and when I put my finger in here, and by the way, this gun is safety check, and I have visually inspected the chamber, so I can have my finger on the trigger. There's just not a lot of room in there. And when I dry fire this, the bottom of my finger is getting pinched right where the trigger and the trigger guard meet, and there's just no room for me to pull up on that trigger. I can't move my finger any higher. It's just too small of a gun for my hands. So I think if you have medium to large hands, this might be an issue, just getting to the controls and pulling the trigger. It's just too small of a gun. But I gotta give this thing a fair shot. So we're gonna get this thing to the range. I'm gonna put my first magazine through it, and we're gonna get my initial thoughts. I'm gonna put the target at 7 yards, put one full magazine through this thing, and see how it works. So as I suspected, this gun is really snappy, and it's very uncomfortable for me to shoot. So having this gun chambered in .380, I think kind of negates the whole point of having a .380. Normally when you have a .380, the gun is going to recoil lighter. This gun, I think, actually recoils heavier than a P365 or a Smith & Wesson Shield Plus or any of those competitor guns chambered in 9mm that might be just a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier. For me, this is a very uncomfortable gun to shoot. And as I mentioned, when I pulled the trigger, my finger gets pinched in that trigger guard all the time. It is not a fun gun or an enjoyable gun to shoot. Now, I do have to say, though, the trigger pull itself is actually pretty good. It's not great, but it's not bad. There's no grit in it. It has a pretty short take-up. The wall is pretty solid. It's very predictable. So I definitely have to give it a few points for that. The last thing I noticed when I was loading the magazines is these magazines are a little bit tough to top off. As I said, I think they hold 10 or 12 rounds, and when you get to that last round of the magazine, man, does it take a lot of pressure. So using a magazine loader might be the way to go, but most magazine loaders that I have work great for 9mm, but these magazines might be a little bit too short, I mean from front to the back, to actually use. So if you're going to top these magazines off, well, this spring is pretty darn sprung. So if you're buying a 380 because maybe you're recoil sensitive or have weaker hands, well, topping off the magazine is definitely going to be a problem. Well, that's just my personal opinion and my experience. I had 2 magazines for this review and both were the same. Alright, so now let's go to what I refer to as the accuracy portion. It's not really where I'm trying to shoot the smallest group possible. I just want to shoot this gun at a longer distance. I'm going to double the initial distance and see how much the group opens up and if it affects the accuracy of the gun any. Alright, so this gun definitely shoots low for me. It could be me, but I was really taking my time and I definitely don't think I was anticipating the shot. For me, it just shoots low. Now, I know many people are going to tell me, I own one of these guns. I can shoot a mile with these things. No problem, iron sights, it's all you, you're a terrible shot. And fine, that might be the case. I know that many times when I review guns that people love and own or personally carry or are invested in, they will defend them to the end. And that also is fine. Just because I have a negative experience or a less than positive experience with a firearm doesn't mean you need to come out and defend it. I fully admit I'm not the world's greatest shot, but for me, this gun definitely shoots a little bit low. So I also did notice that this gun really does have a lot of recoil, and as I mentioned, I think the fact that it is so small and so light really mitigates the whole advantage of having a gun in 380. This thing is way more snappier than the other sub-micro compact 9mm that I have reviewed in the past. It's just not an enjoyable gun to shoot. If this thing had just a little bit of recoil, I would go, well, I definitely would prefer 9mm, but because it is so low recoil, this is the perfect gun for somebody with weak hands, or maybe somebody that is elderly and just looking for a good home defense gun, or possibly something that they can conceal carry. Well, the gun is just too snappy. But that's just from my second magazine and my personal opinion. Alright, so we're now going to give my wife Becky a shot. I actually think she might like this one. She likes 380, she likes really small guns, but as I mentioned, being so light, it might be a little bit too snappy for her. She absolutely loves her Colt Pocket Light Mustang, and she shoots it wonderfully. This is kind of a polymer companion to that, so I'm anxious to see what her thoughts are. So let's see what she has to say.
Were you able to see through it? I have to get steady. Put it up on your shoulder like this.
So the first thing that Becky said when she held this was, boy, that is really light and feels like a toy. And I totally get where she's coming from with it. There's a lot of polymer on this thing and it is exceptionally light. And that could be a huge plus for a lot of people, and I totally get it. But it does kind of feel like a toy. After shooting it, she said it did hurt her hands, and it just reiterates the myth. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to ladies that are buying their first gun, and they always say, I don't want one of those big guns. I want one of those little tiny guns because they're not going to recoil. Well, if you know physics and understand inertia and mass and velocity, well, the little guns are going to recoil more than the big guns. And this is the perfect example of that. Becky also had a couple of failure to feeds, as you noticed. We had a few malfunctions, and I'm pretty sure I know what was going on. She was limp wristing this a little bit. I didn't have any problems, but she did. And I think it's just because the gun recoiled so much, it was not comfortable. She actually said the grip was too thin for her, which kind of surprised me because she has very small hands. She said it worked. She understands why a lot of people would like it. After, handling it a little bit, getting to shoot it and go, well, it is really small. It would fit great in a pocket or a purse, but she did not enjoy shooting this. She was like, I would not enjoy having this. I would not want to take it to the range. It was not comfortable. And I think that kind of made her a little bit sensitive, and she limp wristed and had those failures to feed. So it's just something to take into consideration. It's just a single data point. I didn't have any issues, but she did. So take it for what it's worth. All right, I'm going to do one more test on this gun. As always, I want to try to see what would happen if I use this gun in some type of defensive situation. So I'm going to try to shoot this gun as fast as I possibly can with a single magazine change to see how fast I can get the gun back in action. And I am just your average gun guy. I am not a tactical shooter. I don't train for speed. But if I can get this gun back up and running, well, it might be a pretty good defensive tool. All right, so the magazine change was actually really easy. To get these mags in and out, piece of cake. You push that button, these magazines drop free. Even though the magazine isn't flared, the shape of the magazine really helps you reinsert really fast. I was pretty pleased with that. And the trigger, as I mentioned, is pretty good. I was able to get off a lot of shots very fast and relatively accurate. I did notice the faster I shot this gun, I didn't notice the recoil as much, and it didn't seem as snappy. So what are my final thoughts on the Ruger LCP Max? Well, I'm going to have to grade this one of two ways. This gun was built for a purpose. For a person that is looking for a sub-micro compact gun that is really small for deep concealed carry, and for someone like myself that just likes to go to the range and collect guns and have fun. Well, using the first criteria, this is actually a pretty darn good gun. For me, it was reliable. My wife had some issues, but taking those out of the equation, I think it does its job well. It's affordable. It's made by a company that's going to back up their guns. If you have any problems with it, they're going to fix it. It seems to run. It's well designed. For the price point, I think you get a pretty darn good gun. And I understand why some people are going to like it for a number of different reasons. But then there's the gun snob in me that goes, I don't like this gun. For me, one of the biggest criteria of wanting to own and shoot a gun is how much fun is it? Will I want to take it to the range? Is it mechanically interesting to me? Well, this gun is not very interesting to me. It's just a mass-produced polymer gun from Ruger. So it doesn't have that going for it. And the gun is not pleasurable for me to shoot in my hand. It literally hurts. It's pinching my finger. So I'm not going to enjoy shooting this. And I would be concerned carrying it for that reason alone. I don't want to be carrying a gun, even if it is the world's most reliable gun, if it hurts me to shoot, if I don't feel like I can shoot the gun accurately. And this gun just doesn't have it for me. So from that criteria, and from my personal perspective, I give it a lot lower grade. So I'm going to give you 2-star ratings on this one. From its design and its purpose, I actually give this thing 4 out of 5 stars. But for the Jason factor, I'm only going to give this thing 2 out of 5. It is just that uncomfortable to shoot. It does not fit my hand. Now, it may fit your hand. You may own one of these or one of the original LCPs. And please don't think that in any way I am saying you have made a bad choice for your own personal carry gun. I am just saying for me, it doesn't work. I personally think that if you're looking for a gun in this size, I would definitely go ahead and step up to a bigger caliber like 9mm. Go with the SIG P365, the Taurus GX4, or the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. You get a little bit bigger gun and a better caliber and actually get less recoil. So if you can handle carrying a little bit bigger gun, I think that would be the way to go. But that's just my personal opinion. So, 4 out of 5 stars for what it is, and I can understand why people love it, but only 2 out of 5 stars for me. And that's on the Ruger LCP Max. Very small 380 with pretty formidable capacity. So what do you guys think? Do you own one of these? Do you guys think my assessments are way off? I totally understand if you do. Let me know in the comments section below. And once again, thank you to all of my Patreons, and a very special thank you to Mark, a local subscriber who lent this to the channel for review. I can't tell you how awesome it is to have such amazing subscribers that are willing to loan me guns so I can bring you this content. And of course, check out my sponsors, Brownworks, and also Big Daddy Unlimited, who's my sponsor for my other non-range report videos. So please check them out. They support the Texas Gun Vault, so please think about supporting them. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching.